Hi everyone, my name is Anissa and today I'll be discussing the cubical atom theory. Gilbert Lewis wrote The Atom and the Molecule to elaborate the ideas of Abeg's law of valence and countervalence, namely that the total difference between the valence and oxidation state numbers is often 8 and is no case more than 8. This is the first time he mentions in the paper the term that will be known later as the octet rule. He came up with this figure where the circles represent the electrons in the outer shell of the neutral atom. He starts with a few fundamental hypotheses. The first three hypotheses refer to the separation of the atom into kernel and outer shell and the rule of 8. He takes an effective dissection of the atom, focusing on the important part of the valence shell and establishing the octet rule. The next three hypotheses focuses on the chemical bond, where he states that the atomic shells are mutually penetratable, which is the act of bonding. He then proceeds to say while electrons may exchange positions in the valence shell, they are held in positions by rigid constraints that are determined by the nature of the atom and the other atoms it's combined with. Finally, he asserts the electrical forces between particles, which are very close together, do not obey the simple law of inverse squares, which hold at greater distances. Next, he focuses on the bonding, where he uses iodine in figure A to represent ionic bonds that are formed by the transfer of an electron from one cube to another without sharing an edge. In figure B represents an intermediate state where only one corner is shared, and C involves an electron pair bonding and the share bond, which we know as the covalent bond. He ends his article with a new idea that requires a new symbol and mentions in order to express this idea of chemical union, it should be represented by the symbol colon to represent the two electrons connecting. He proceeds to consider a double bond in which 4 electrons are held conjointly by the atoms. Because double bonds have the tendency to break, he presents in this figure ethylene molecule as a tautomeric blend, one with a double bond and one with a diradical. He also mentions triple bonds cannot be represented using the model. Finally, Lewis summarizes his view of organic molecules in a statement that molecules are held together by the pairs of electrons which are held jointly by the component atoms.